Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. Today we are bringing you our call-in show, a fan favourite. For those who aren't so familiar with me, I'm Sam. I did some of the build-up for the Copenhagen game. I was sat in this exact position bringing you the team news for the Manchester derby, and I was also here on deadline day bringing you the exclusives. I provide you with the latest, but now it's your turn to provide me and Kev with your thoughts on everything Manchester United. We'll be touching on if Ten Hag loses to Luton, is that him done? Is there any way back? Rafa Varane, what's going on with him? And who should Ten Hag aim to sign in January? I'm joined by Kev. Kev, obviously, you know, we've had a few hours now since you did that fan forum yesterday after the game. Wasn't very good, was it? Now you've had time to settle. What do you think?
I'm a bit more happier today, a bit more in a happier place than what I was last night. Obviously, we watched the match together in the studio. And as I said on the fan forum last night, a right mixture of emotions to be leading the game twice, to go down to 10 men. There was just so much. You know, to be hosting my first forum in the studio and trying to get my head around exactly everything that had happened. It was action-packed, but I have to take positives from it and I have to look, and I think a lot of people have questioned whether this team were playing for the manager, whether his ideas, his philosophy, methods were getting through to the team. And I think one thing it did prove from last night, okay, we got beat, but you can see that these players they can carry out an instruction, because for large parts of that game last night, United looked very, very good. And without using excuse United and all that, you know, I can say the sending off, it did change the game. Yeah. It impacted it massively because United had to change their shape, style of play. We're playing with a man less for such a long, you know, space of time. So, listen, I've seen a style of play. What I want to see that is that implemented now against Luton on Saturday at Old Trafford. That would be nice.
Hopefully so. So let's get our first caller in. Kev, he wants to talk about Marcus Rashford. He raises the question, is it time to sell Marcus Rashford? Ayu, are you with us? Ayu, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You said, is it time to sell Marcus Rashford? So tell us your thoughts.
Yes. So Marcus Rashford, he just turned 26 years old, and he's a player that I really like, first of all, and he came through the youth setup and he came through our academy. But at the age of 26, he's not showing the levels that are expected of Manchester United player after all those years.
Hey, you, can I just put in there, it's Kev here, mate, I hope you're well. A great topic to bring up because I think it does divide Manchester United fans, but when you're judging Marcus Rashford this season, is it purely because of the drop-off last season? We obviously know he contributed a hell of a lot of goals last season. Are you looking at that drop-off and being a bit knee-jerk with a reaction of saying, you know, he's finished, he's done? Because I look at him and I think he shouldn't really have even hit his prime yet. Yes, it's a worry that the goals have dried up, but is that a major contributing factor to your opinion now that maybe Manchester United should look to sell Marcus Rashford?
Yes, because inconsistency is like a very big reason for this. Last season, we know he hit over 40 plus GA last season, and you guys have talked about it yesterday during the build-up, and I don't see him like providing consistency as much as, for example, Mohamed Salah does. He's been there for almost 7-8 years consistently, and these are the players, the player profiles that we need for Manchester United, not players that can be good when everything is great and then heads down when everything is going against them. But Marcus Rashford, I don't know. I really don't think he's the solution for our left-hand wing, because we see Garnacho, we see how hard he's trying to work. At least for right now, the decision should be to keep him on the bench or keep him off the spotlight for a good while until he rediscovers his form.
If you think we should sell Marcus Rashford, and that means we're just left on the left-hand side with Garnacho, as obviously Jadon Sancho has been pretty much expelled from the Manchester United first team, do you think that's enough?
No, we have the January transfer window coming up, and we could get other covering players. And also, we know that Amad Diallo is going to be back, and he's another player that's going to need a chance to consistently play on the left or right hand side just to show us what he's made of. I think we should give other players a chance to prove themselves.
EU, thank you very much for your call, Kev.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Marcus Rashford, hot topic, especially this week as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, that red card changed the game. I'm not too sure what's going on at the moment, but hopefully he can, turn around his.
And one thing you can't do, any Manchester United fan kind of wants to scapegoat Rashford. I looked at social media this morning. I was quite surprised to see some Manchester United fans saying that Rashford should take the blame for this. There's people looking at the letter of the law and kind of saying, well, listen, it's dangerous play, this, that. As Graham Souness says, I've played the game. If you played the game, I've not played it at high level, Sunday League football, do you know what I mean? But yeah. I've took some challenges. They were worse than that. But VAR will drive you absolutely crazy because it was there to rule out any kind of debate, really, regarding decisions that are being made. There seems to be more now. I cannot understand why there's more talking points now with VAR as when it ran just with officials on the pitch that were calling it. And you were acceptant, The thing you have to look at Rashford yesterday is the referee is right near that incident and the whistle was not blown. This is an incident that obviously VAR have looked at and they've said, you need to have a look at this. Play continued for a while until the referee stopped it and went and had a look. And then when you look at the still pictures, they do not look great. But you can do that with any picture and make it, you need context to it. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when they stop and you can see just that one image, then of course it's going to look bad. And that is the sticking point with VAR. Yeah. Jem has gifted 5 United Stand memberships. Thank you for that. Get your super chats in and we will read them out and debate. Let's move on to our next caller, Kev.
Yeah.
I think our next caller is Luca, and he thinks that Ten Hag should be given time by the fans. Luca, how comes you think this?
Well, lads, how are things?
How are we doing, Luca?
Good, thank you.
Nice to talk to you, mate. Oh, he didn't like me. He's gone.
No. Luca,
are you there, sir?
The call-in show the other day, and I'm not going to lie, I wanted to smash the screen at him when he was talking about Ten Hag.
Who was that? Sorry.
Yeah,
you cut out slightly at the start then, Luca. Sorry.
Your point, please?
Pardon?
Can you just repeat your point, please? You cut out at the start for us.
Oh, sorry, boys. I was watching the call-in show there last Monday, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And when Faz was talking about Ten Hag, and he was clapping when the fake Zidane leaks came out, I just don't see how in the fan base think that getting rid of Ten Hag is going to change anything. It's not going to change the results. It's not going to change the culture in the club. And it just really infuriates me. I don't know your take on
Luca,
the whole manager situation.
I was going to say, do you want my place on the United stand, mate? Because you are a man after my own heart. I thoroughly back everything that you have just said. And listen, I've spoke to Faz. We speak to Faz quite a lot before we go on air. And the amount of times I'm trying to say it will not make any difference changing a manager again. And you know what Faz is like. He's, well, why should we keep Ten Hag? I always say to him, listen, mate, it didn't work with David Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho. You can throw Rangnick in there, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Yeah. We have been down every single route, Luca. And I'm assuming your point here is that a change of manager again is going to make absolutely no difference to Manchester United.
It's going to make matters worse. Like we've seen it now. You can say, okay, Ole, didn't work, whatever, but we've seen it now. Like a couple of occasions, it's not going to work. And I'm not that person. I'm not that guy that's going to slate people on opinions. Faz has his opinion, whatever. But I think when it comes to this, I think it's delusional. I really do. I just don't.
You have to give things time, Luca.
Luca, if in your eyes you're saying obviously back Ten Hag, what do you think the main problem then is at Manchester United? Because clearly something is going wrong at the moment.
well, it's clearly the board. It's the whole system that the Glazers are running, and the players as well. Like, you know, what Ten Hag is playing has options. It's, you know, like, people are giving up. The pundits now, like slating the likes of Bruno and Anthony for kicking lads in the derby, where I think they should be applauded for that, you know. But you see, Rashford has his hands on his head every attack when he doesn't get the ball or he misplaces a pass. The pundits are fairly quiet on that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm an Irishman myself. I'm not one to slay our English players, but I think the media completely protects the likes of Rashford, and, you know.
I was just going to say, Luca, that one of United's greatest ever players, obviously a fellow countryman of yourself, Roy Keane. I think he would totally agree with there's nothing wrong going around with kicking people. I'm all for that anyway.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Luca, you mentioned there Bruno Fernandes, and obviously some people have questioned, is Bruno the right captain? Is Bruno the right man to take forward Manchester United? Do you think yes?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think Bruno is exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Keane, you know, fellow countryman, absolute legend. But I think his comments on Bruno were ridiculous as well. I think Keane might be falling into that category of just following the media. Like, when I seen what Scholes said last night after the game about Ten Hag should go. Before the game, he was saying, "Oh, he's not had it easy. He's been unlucky." And then we lose 4-3 from. Look, we should have defended that 2-0. You're down to 10 men, but still, any other team in the Champions League defending that lead. But I don't know, VAR is like, there's so many things going wrong, like, on the pitch. But Scholes coming out saying Ten Hag, this fella should go. Oh, I just don't understand it, to be honest. I don't think he's watching the games. Robbie Savage as well.
Oh, don't get me started,
me
man.
and Kev were speaking about Robbie Savage's commentary yesterday. It seems like ever since we sold his son, he's become slightly salty towards Manchester United.
Yeah.
Great 100%.
point. But Luca, thank you very much for your call, and have a brilliant rest of your day. Kev, just looking at the live chat here, some people saying Bruno is no leader. Somebody said sell Sancho and sack Ten Hag. So there's obviously, you know, a different variation of opinion about Bruno Fernandes and the captaincy. Where do you stand on it?
I get it with Bruno Fernandes. The amount of times I've been on fan forums, it is always it's an interesting debate, because Bruno, I think we're at a point where he does divide opinion. You'll have your United fans that are Bruno Fernandes, yes, he's the captain of Manchester United. I had no qualms with it at the time when he was announced as club captain. I do have to look at it and base what I kind of do here on the United Stand on what I'm seeing and performance related. Now, one thing that I can never fault Bruno Fernandes for is work rate. He's, you know, tenacious, pressing. I think he's when he's not in the team, we see what we missed from Bruno. You missed that press from the front. But at the same time, I can fully understand that some people will say his first season was brilliant at Manchester United. We're here now for the now, aren't we?
Yeah.
We need him to be doing it now. So, you know, we get labelled with this. You live in the past, United fans. You know, of course we talk about the good times and that, but we want the good times to be now as well. So we can't be saying, a couple of seasons ago, Bruno had an outstanding season. That's great. You know, we can look back on that. But for this moment in time, I don't think he's ripping up any trees. But in Bruno's defence, I don't think anybody else is. So it's very difficult. It's not just one player in a team that's not performing. It's so many different parts of the puzzle. But last night, you know, it did work for large periods of the game. And the thing is, Bruno's a risk taker. He will try passes that other players won't. You know, and then that's where stats come in. You'll look at some player, he's completed 100 passes in the first half. Bruno's only completed whatever. Well, look at the passes they're playing. If you're playing it left or right, an easy ball, at least Bruno is looking for the runs of Højlund, Rashford, whoever it is. So
it's also like with Bruno, like there is always that hope that he can create that one moment of magic that will win us the game. We saw it against Fulham.
Not every player is capable of that, and that's where Bruno is on his own. But at the same time, I do understand the criticism, and I'm certainly not going to sit and defend him staunchly, because recently, for some reason, there has been a drop-off.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's move on to our next caller. Our next caller is Mark. He says yesterday's performance until Rashford's red card was good, but he's a bit concerned with the mentality of the players. Mark, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, tell us your thoughts. What do you mean by mentality of the players?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, just go off the start of the red card. I think the first 20 minutes yesterday was probably the best football I've seen us play in ages. And it was really positive. But after the red card, which I don't think was a red card at all, you can see Rashford wasn't even looking at him. I don't know if it was for the stud on the ankle or if it was for the arm in the face, because there were some rumours going about after.
But messed that up, didn't they?
It's an interesting one, that. Yeah, I heard about an elbow, and I was like, "What elbow? What the hell is going on here?"
I think it was definitely the second challenge, but obviously we can't be sure because we haven't spoken to UEFA about it.
Yeah, no, it's confusing because like players are told you're wanting to play the game, and now we're being told, have your hands down by your side fully, and you can't even go in now and actually try and protect the ball. So it's kind of ruining football a bit. And I think going back to my other point about the mentality with the players, it's just quite concerning because we've seen so many times this year already. I think having key players out, probably knocks the confidence already of players. I mean, I'm from Northern Ireland, so all respect to Johnny Evans. I love the guy, but in a Champions League game, when you're looking around, you have Johnny Evans who couldn't get any other club. And Leicester didn't want to keep him. Already the confidence levels, if that was me, I wouldn't be too confident. What the pressure that the players are already under.
And also with Johnny Evans, he's probably too old to be playing 3 in a week, isn't he?
Yeah. And the fact, Mark, I would say a settled back four at United in general. We look at Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka's only just coming back. Varane obviously had a shocker last night, but he has been injured. Martinez won't be back till Christmas. Getting a settled back four at Manchester United, getting back to basics, that spine of the team, getting that back, that's had a huge effect, I think, on results, which in theory does back up what you've said, because you've quite rightly rang in, you've mentioned mentality, and that does come because it comes with trust as well. Other players around you trusting you. If you haven't got a settled back four, then you will struggle, won't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, with even like people talking about the Luton game for Ten Hag, like for me, in my opinion, obviously I want us to win, but if we lose, I actually don't care, because like if you look at the amount of like crap that Ten Hag's put up with, like from Ronaldo, from Sancho, from Greenwood, like I've never known, like even when Sir Alex Ferguson was in, I know he was far better at dealing with players than maybe Ten Hag's been, but I've never known in my time as a United fan, like the amount of stuff that's happened to Ten Hag. I think it could just be the perfect manager at the wrong time. Like it's looking that way, because some fans are starting to turn on him here, and I just don't get it, because
that's a great point.
Yeah, that's true. I was going to say though, on your point about that you wouldn't care if we lost to Luton. I mean, I certainly would. We can't be losing to Luton. But that's
unless Mark's point is that if we were beaten by Luton on Saturday, it wouldn't make him necessarily be calling for the manager's head.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, well, thank you very much for calling in, and we appreciate it, and hopefully see you on the next one.
Cheers, Mark.
Yes.
I've just got some super chats to read, and we can actually have a little debate about this. Grace says, if there was a reset, which players would you keep?
Oh, God.
Great question. Who would I keep? I reckon I'd keep...
I'd be keeping, start from the keeper, Anana. Yeah, Martinez is now injured. Shaw. Luke Shaw. Wan-Bissaka, I think we could agree on. And then into midfield, I think we're going to be discussing Amrabat later on.
So we'll be discussing Amrabat. So we'll come back to that. Don't want to throw a spoiler in there. We'll come back to that. But yes, Grace, thank you for your super chat. Red Devil says, it is down to the manager and coaches why we are in this mess. They coached the players, Ten Hag's tactics, and Ten Hag wanted these players. Thank you for your super chat. And Graham says, what about the guy that smashed Højlund with his forearm?
Yeah. We do not get the rub of the green with these decisions. Definitely I'm sorry, but I said this the other week. The Manchester derby, Rodri They pull that back. You know, nobody knew what was happening in the stadium. Even if you're watching the match, you're thinking, what are they looking at here? What are they checking? And then we see this little frailing arm on Rodri. He goes down like he's been sniped, like somebody shot him in the crowd.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right. And then he's like, surely not going to... He's a grown man, you know, and he's just fallen to the floor like a sack of shit or whatever. Yeah. And then we instantly you think of Højlund's involved in that situation, and you think, well, what difference was that at the Emirates when Højlund was, you know, he was grappled to the floor? So there's no consistency with it, and that's what absolutely drives me crazy. Really does.
Let's get our next caller in. It's Ben, and Ben actually links his point very weirdly to Grace's super chat. Ben wants to talk about the current state of the team and what positions need to be improved. So Ben, would you like to talk about that? And then Grace is obviously asking which players would you keep for a reset. So go, the stage is yours.
Sam, how are we doing this morning or this afternoon? Where you guys are? How are you guys?
I'm good, thank you.
Take it away, mate.
Good. Last night was tough. Yeah. I just wanted to very quickly say I have been calling out for Rashford, Højlund, and Garnacho to be on the field at the same time, and up until the red, it was amazing, and I want to see that continue. I'll love to see that continue against Luton this weekend. So I think that is honestly our best front three going forward as of now. But my original point was that now we're 2 years in to this supposed rebuild, and guys, I don't know about you, but it feels like we're going backwards. We're not progressing, and a lot of these signings that we've made and money that we've spent in these important positions are still not filled. Specifically, I'm not going in on Antony, but the right wing, we've spent 90 to 100 million on that position, and it's still not locked down. CDM, Casemiro was amazing last year, but he's clearly fallen off, gotten injured. And in my opinion, the CDM, that number 6 role, is by far the most important position on the football pitch. And who's playing there? McTominay, Eriksen, right? Amrabat. So like these positions, even center back, we've spent considerable amount of money there. And I'm worried that when even Licha, when he comes back, he's not going to be full strength because of this injury. So I'm just asking you guys, where do you think this rebuild is going? And one more thing, like I know it's not all Ten Hag's fault, but like his player identity and what he has been picking in terms of these transfer targets, it doesn't seem like it's up to United standard.
I think you make some really, really good points there, and I don't think it's any different from what a lot of Manchester United fans are probably actually thinking at the minute. It's only natural that we will question it. It's a process. It's a process that we've been through with previous managers, and I think it is tough to watch. My kind of question is, and when I look at last season, how good Manchester United were to win a Carabao Cup. Yes, we were beaten by Manchester City in the FA Cup final, but to make 2 cup finals, win 1 and finish top 4, at the end of last season, I'm really looking forward to this season because it was like the good times are back. All Ten Hag signings at that point last season, we were kind of looking, and you could make an argument for all of them being successful so far. But what in your opinion do you think has actually dropped off then, since last season? Because a lot of fans now are questioning, and rightly so. I've said Antony. I think he could be going along the lines of being the worst signing Manchester United have ever made for the amount of money that they have paid for him. But what do you think it is exactly?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Kev. What do I think it is exactly? It's honestly hard to tell. Do
you think it could be players? I've just mentioned before about previous regimes and previous managers. It hasn't helped. You've still got players from the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era. You've got ones from the Mourinho era. So in Ten Hag's defence, you kind of do look and you think we always knew it was going to be a rebuild. You know, there's only so many players you can buy in a transfer window, so it has to be done over time. We know 100% that McTominay and Maguire are two players that he actively looked to sold. Manchester United couldn't get deals done. So do you think, obviously you've got Jadon Sancho as well, another player there who's obviously caused maybe problems in the dressing room, but do you think that's a fair comment to say that it could be players from past regimes at Manchester United who aren't on board?
These players are just not good enough. They're really not. I love some of them, you know, there are players. Someone made a good point the other day. I wish I could shout them out. I forget who it was, but our midfield besides Bruno, probably Faz. You're right. It was probably Faz. No, but in my opinion, besides Bruno, we're operating with a broken down Casemiro, Eriksen on a free, McTominay, who's a youth player still, right? But like these elite teams, the Manchester Cities, the Arsenals, you know, those teams go out and they splash 100 million pounds on elite players, right? Like Declan Rice, like he comes into the Arsenal team and he transforms that midfield, right? Rodri, he's an amazing player, right? So like Casemiro last year, he came into our team and I really do think he transformed things. But now that he's completely dropped off, we're working with Eriksen on a free, McTominay, Amrabat on loan, right? Like these players, this recruitment isn't good enough. It's the players. To answer your original question, Kev, it is the players. They're just straight up not good enough. And I'm hoping that when this new structure arrives, whenever that may be, that we're able to identify better players to be able to bring in these key positions.
I mean, I think he's spot on. Thank you very much for your call, and we'll hopefully see you on the next one.
Another great audition for the United Stand. My work here at the United Stand is under serious threat, man. There's people talking a lot more sense than me.
Well,
love it.
Keep getting your calls in. The Discord link is in the description and our mods are putting it in the YouTube chat. Just one more super chat and then we actually have some breaking news, but not from Manchester United. CJ says, hearing a lot of ifs, if X went this way, if Y went that way, etc. If my Auntie Sue had nuts, she'd be my Uncle Steve. We have to deal in facts and not ifs.
We are trying. We are trying, my friend. But there is such a thing as ifs and buts and maybes and all that.
Continue to get your super chats in. We are reading them out. Just want to stop for a second because there has been some news that Sky have broken. The Colombian FA have confirmed that Luis Diaz's father has been released. So
it's good news.
Good news.
Very good news.
Good news there. Let's bring in our next caller. Our next caller is Jake. Jake wants to talk about the club's ownership, Jim Ratcliffe, the Glazers, and his 250 million pump in infrastructure. Jake, the stage is yours. You're on the United Stand. Take it away.
Let's do this.
Hi, Kev. Hi, Sam.
Yes, hello.
Jake. I think, you know, every single week you hear the same things. It's all trivial. It's all, well, I mean, it's in the eyes of the beholder, and it could be trivial. It could be big issues. I just think it all always leads back to the same thing, or we always end up talking about the same thing, whether it be Glazers, whether it be the ownership, whether it be, you know, decisions that are being made by the board, Richard Arnold, whoever it may be. You know, it always, I feel like, leads back to the board. And I just feel like it gets, I'm more speaking anecdotally, I think, but it just gets draining, just talking about the same things all the time when, you know, the issues, or most of the issues lead back to the same thing. And I think, obviously, you know, in the reality of things, we can't change what's going on. The Glazers are only going to sell, and the Glazers are only going to operate the way that they're operated. They're not going to change it. Of course, we know that.
Can I just ask you that?
Go on.
How does that actually? I'm not trying to be a counsellor here or anything, but
play devil's advocate, mate. Go on.
Yeah, no, I like it. Deep down, how does that make you feel as a Manchester United supporter? I know how I feel, but that line that you kind of just said then, that you know that the Glazers are not going, and it's almost like the previous caller as well, that was going along the lines of, you know, nothing will ever change unless this regime of the Glazers changes. How do you feel about that? It is soul-destroying and heartbreaking, isn't it, at the same time, really?
I mean, I'm going to try and reference like United from the 2000s. I'm only 19. I don't know too much. I'm going to try and live it through my dad. I'm going to try and relate it through my father. Who brought me up on United. But obviously,
he's done a great job, lad.
We've been successful under the Glazer regime. It's not like this is a completely out of the blue thing. Obviously, we have been successful under the Glazers, but I feel like Sir Alex is he's a 1 in a million. He's the only person who could be the glue within such a shit show like that.
Yeah.
I don't think you can ever find a manager or a single body who can do something like that again. And the reality is now that that's what's going on. There's no one who can do that. There's not a captain who can do that. There's not a manager who can do that. I think the way it makes me feel, I think the way it makes me feel is the same as how every United fan feels, who actually understands the situation. You can't really do much. They're always just going to hide off in America. They don't have to actually face the reality of what's going on. They don't have to see it. It doesn't touch their pockets. We're still the biggest club commercially in the world. We're always going to sell shirts.
Rolling in.
Exactly. Yeah. So if when Jim Ratcliffe takes over his 25% of Manchester United and pumps in what we're hearing is going to be around 250 million, do you think that makes any impact whatsoever? No.
No, I think my point is that I think it does make an impact, because I think it's so easy to, obviously when Qatar pulled out and the talk was to Jim obviously leading the race, I think it's so easy to just be all doom and gloom about it and just look at the negatives of everything. But I mean, you look at the way he's running Nice in League One. You look at how much he spends there, which is quite little. You're like a £20 million striker, doing very well for them. I think he runs Nice very well. I just think it's important to realise that although it might not be Qatar, it could be the start of something. It could be the start of something good. 250 million out of his own pocket to go into infrastructure wherever it goes. It's a positive step.
I mean, that's all we can hope for it being a positive
exactly.
step. Yeah. Thank you very much for your call. Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot.
No problem.
Mark, yeah, cheers. Mark Langridge, member for 19 months. Thank you very much for your support. Says, we were spoiled last year by achievements. We would have been happy with top 6. And then this season wouldn't be that bad considering injuries.
Overachieved. I have said before, I said this last season, got absolutely slated for it. I couldn't understand it. I'm trying to say, Erik Ten Hag in his first season, massively overachieved. You've got 2 cup finals, you win an EFL Cup, easy enough for me to say, finish in the top 4. For me, top 4, it was all about top 4, trying to break into that top 4 last season. But if we'd have finished just outside it, playing good football, I don't think anything would have been said about that. Fans would have been quite happy. But because Ten Hag has set the bar that high now, I think in his second season, people are deeming it, as not a successful season. But look at Emery at Aston Villa. People are raving about him. They're saying, look at what we are not that far behind Aston Villa, and we've not actually played well this season.
And we should be above Aston Villa. Saying that we're behind Aston Villa in itself.
Well, that is where Manchester United are at the minute. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to our next caller. Our next caller is Costa. He says he wants to talk about recent unlucky games and how we can improve, and he wants to talk about Luke Shaw's position when he returns. Costa, the stage is yours.
Hi guys, hope y'all doing well.
Good,
hello,
thank you, mate.
So what I wanted to talk about is we all believe that Luke Shaw is going to be, I think, back quicker than probably Martinez. And what I think is that we have to use Luke Shaw as a left-sided center back instead of left back, because we are actually very struggling in that side of defense. So last year when Martinez was out, I think Luke Shaw did a really good job at the left-sided center back. So I think we have to try that first and see how it's going to go. So I want to know what you guys think about it.
Koza, a man after my own heart again. How have we got so many people on speaking so much sense? I love this, absolutely. I was expecting to come on and be angry and say, what are you talking about, you fool? But that's, listen, I think Luke Shaw, I cannot wait for Luke Shaw to get back into this team. Last season, I thought he played some of his best football at centre-back. Ten Hag obviously didn't have trust in Harry Maguire at a time when we had injuries, and he preferred Luke Shaw as that kind of left-sided centre-back, and he was absolutely sensational. I talked earlier about having uncertainty in the back line.
Yeah.
Luke Shaw, when he's in there, communication-wise, bringing the ball out from the back, he's just so comfortable on the ball. Honestly, he's been such a huge miss for Manchester United.
Interesting that you wanted to bring up Luke Shaw, because we at the United Stand actually reported just over a month ago now that Luke Shaw was progressing well with his return from injury, and the hope was that he could be back near the end of the year, but it's thought that his return will not be rushed. But I think we can all agree that the sooner Luke Shaw's back, the better.
Yeah, but as you said, don't rush him back.
Exactly. When Luke Shaw comes back, whose position does he take?
I think probably the left side, like most probably Johnny Evans, because I really don't know if Rafael Varane is going to play alongside Maguire, because they actually did not look quite comfortable playing together, at least the last game when they played yesterday. So I never doubt that Varane should be our starting center back, but there's some kind of fallout between him and the club, and I really don't understand why. Like, I really don't see a problem if sometimes the player comes from the bench, especially when the player is injury prone. So I really don't know if I can say if Varane has a problem with it, but looking at him and his body language yesterday, I think he was quite frustrated with Ten Hag, and maybe there is a fallout between them. But to be honest, if there's nothing going on between them, I still would play Varane and Luke Shaw in defense. So
Koza, I was just going to say, this goes back to last year. I think it was a quick fix for last season, and we performed well because the likes of Casemiro had a fantastic season at Manchester United. You just mentioned Varane. We were delighted when these two players come in. A World Cup winner, multiple Champions League trophies, and we were like, the mentality of Manchester United, we've got winners in our team. You can even throw Christian Eriksen in. And one major issue this season has been that these, what I would call short-term players that were put on big contracts as well by Manchester United, are either injured. You can't really rely on them at this moment in time, and they were the spine of a great team last season. So to lose them three, Koza, is going to be a massive headache for Ten Hag, isn't it? In the summer, there's some big calls to be making.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, like last season, I really thought that our back line, like CDM and the defense, was probably sorted. Like, I think the biggest mistake what we made this summer was not going all in for Kim Min-jae, because for me, he's now top three in his position, because he's quick, fast, strong, very good on the ball, has very good football and IQ, and is practically in his prime age. So that was the biggest mistake I think what United have made. So that's number one. And about the contracts, I agree with you 100%. Like, you don't have to overpay the contracts for people like who are going below their prime, because it's going to bite you at some point. Like with Quick Fix, I think Casemiro was an amazing signing. I still think that he has 1 or 2 years left in him. I don't think he's washed up or something like that, but to be honest, we can't build our future on Casemiro and Rafael Varane at the moment. We need reinforcements, and we need it as soon as possible. Like, for me, I wanted to talk about this in the previous call-in show. Like, my ideal summer transfer window would have been Kim Min-jae, Nicola Barella from Inter, and Rasmus Højlund. Like, these three would have been the best signings.
1 out of 3 is not bad.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said 1 out of 3 is not bad.
Yeah. So that was my ideal summer transfer window. I thought we would have gone Kim Min-jae. Even like last January, there were multiple rumors that it was almost a done deal, and there are many rumors, and I thought Kim Min-jae would have been our first signing, but it didn't end up well. So,
well, Kosa, thank you very much for your call. Some great points there. Kev, do you think there's something deeper going on with Varane? I can't seem to work it out. In my head, I'm thinking there's no way you bench a player like Varane. But then Ten Hag, he said tactical reasons, didn't he? And then when you see the performance Varane put in yesterday, I mean, is there something deeper going on, or do you think Ten Hag simply just prefers Johnny Evans?
There is conflicting stories because I was in the opinion, and I said yesterday, if Varane's fit enough to be on the bench, he should be playing. Now, at the same time, I was kind of saying, well, Varane will know his own body, and he's at the age now where he will know maybe he needs a bit longer before he can hit his stride and get back in, because he's been named on the game for a couple of games. But he comes on yesterday and, the ball that he plays to Harry Maguire, if it's the other way round, Harry Maguire is making back pages, front pages. There'll be people outside his house throwing bricks at his mansion door or whatever. He would have got dog's abuse for that. And Varane has had some criticism. It's just we're not that used to it. But it really is a strange one at this moment in time that I can't put my finger on. But I've just mentioned Varane, Casemiro, Eriksen. Was it a bit of a quick fix to have such a great season? There has been a huge drop-off that will come with age, legs.
Well, we do have to remember that we didn't mean to sign Casemiro in the summer, did we? We wanted Frenkie de Jong. We tried the entire summer for Frenkie de Jong. Yeah. And then they thought, right, well, we can't get a player from Barcelona. Who else is there in Spain? Let's go to Madrid and buy Casemiro. So Casemiro was never in the transfer plan. It was outrageous
at the time. So I was on holiday at the time, and when I heard that news, I was like, talk about fake news or clickbait. I'm like, what? United have signed Casemiro? And I was like, whoa. But again, a great season last season, you have to look at it kind of and think his better days are behind him. But if you fit somebody in next to him and you get the right blend, it should work. One thing we probably did miss from yesterday's game is a Casemiro in the sense of being able to see that game out.
Control the game.
Exactly. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you for your help.
No, it's my pleasure. That's why I'm here. Let's bring in David. He's sticking on the topic of Rafa Varane and wants to talk about his in-game performances. David, Rafa Varane, what's going on?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, just
loud and clear, sir.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah. Hi. I'm watching Manchester United since I was like 8 years old, and why we characterize is because our defense. So the period when Rafa Varane came to United, I watched that Ten Hag want a specific defender. Okay. So the first season he made it well, and also doesn't have too much problems. And also the connection with Victor Lindelof was great in that time.
Do you like Victor Lindelof as a player?
I like it. I like it because he maybe can be the change of Lisandro Martinez, because Lisandro Martinez is our top defender, definitely, because he's the best. Okay. So when Lisandro Martinez has this injury in Sevilla, I thought that Rafa Varane has sent the connection with the other defenders as has with Licha Martinez. I mean, that's the problem right now. I think that Rafa Varane is going down because of his injuries and all that stuff that maybe came in his health and also the age. I thought that we have to look in the winter a new defender more younger, like Todibo or anyone in the market that is available and fits with the profile that Ten Hag needs.
Well, thank you very much for your call. The reason we're moving on so quickly is because we have just touched on, Rafa Varane's situation. But of course, it's only fair that everybody who wants it.
And obviously, there's lots of people trying to get through as well, which we hugely appreciate.
We needed to get through. Ange is in the room. Ange is with us. Maybe it's Ange Postecoglou. Maybe. He wants to talk about Ten Hag's signings. Go on. The stage is yours.
Hey Sam, Kev, how you doing?
I'm good.
Hello, Ange.
Hey, just wanted to talk about, I think there's going to be big questions asked about Ten Hag's signings.
Okay.
Having the team yesterday, We had Mount on the bench. We had Amrabat, who he really fought for, if you guys remember, during the summer transfer window.
Yep.
And then we had Anthony, who was his big prize recruit, the guy that he'd worked with at Ajax and that cost about £85 million. I think he's eventually going to get judged on how well his transfers work out. And at the moment, half of them are on the bench, half of them might be injured. But on the whole, it does look suspect. What are your thoughts?
Well, can I come back at you with a question? Is that okay?
Yeah.
If you could pick one Ten Hag signing that you think he shouldn't have signed, like, that makes sense, who would you say to Ten Hag, no, actually, you shouldn't have signed him, and why?
There's a clear number one, and it's Anthony for the amount that he costs. But just also, like, I don't think he slows down the pace of the game. His decision making, like, what are his good qualities is probably the better question. Like, not to be too mean, but what are the qualities that he works really hard, and I think he tracks back really well. But in terms of offense, he really stifles our offense. Like, the ball stops when he goes to, and then he makes a poor decision after he stopped for like 5-6 seconds, and the fans get on his back, and I think that affects him.
It's the transfer fee as well, isn't it, Ange? That it is a huge thing. It's something I'm not contradicting myself by saying this, because I've always said that when I was trying to support Anthony and I'm looking at performances, I was exactly the same as you. I was like, he tracks back defensively, offers work on that right-hand side. But the longer we get into his Manchester United kind of career, you need him to step up, don't you? And that's when the price tag does sort of jump out, because you think, if this guy or this lad Anthony would have cost United £1 million, I'm sorry, but he'd be nowhere near the starting 11 at Manchester United. In fact,
that's a great point.
Manchester United might have just released him, or he would have been sold on if anybody would have took him. But Ten Hag is showing, so much faith in this player. To an extent, he's almost cutting his nose off to kind of spite his face. But last night, obviously, it was a kind of must-win Champions League game. He drops him, and I like that in Ten Hag, because I think he showed far too much faith in him, hasn't he? And it literally is at the point where it's not sustainable. If Ten Hag wants to start winning games, Anthony isn't really part of that at the moment, unless he can, show something to get back into this starting 11.
That's a great point. And the thing is, if this was a player that he really liked, but he'd never worked with before, then there's some understanding, hey, it just didn't work out. There's been big signings, but this is a player that he saw every day for 2 years at Ajax, and he still wanted to sign him. And the thing is,
he's still young, isn't he? Yeah, only 23.
He's 22, but there are deficiencies in terms of there's so many deficiencies. Where do you start? At 22. Most wingers at 22 can deliver at a really good level, especially when you're paying $85 million for him. And I think he's trying to prove to the recruitment team, because I bet you there's people looking at him sideways going, hey, what's going on here? Why did you want to sign this guy so bad when he can't perform at this level? So I think he's trying to, so there's a concern there. Just the other point that I want to make is just overall having a look at that team. It's getting old. It's an aging squad. Eriksen's in there, our whole backline's getting old.
Casemiro, Varane,
yeah. The big job of whoever comes in next is, how do we get a young, exciting, I think a lot of fans would be okay if we didn't win as many games as we want. Say we finished just outside the top 4. If there was a young, exciting team coming up that we can look forward to growing with. And at the moment, we've got a lot of short-term fixes, a lot of older players. It's where are we going with this? And that's the big question.
Højlund's the first one that broke the mold, hasn't he? He's the first you could look at. If you could guarantee, that you're going to get maybe 6 or 7 players in Højlund's kind of age bracket, the exciting. When you think back to a great Manchester United team that had a Wayne Rooney, a Ronaldo, it was exciting. It was just fresh, attacking wise. It scared the life out of defences. It would be nice to get back to that.
Well, Ange, thank you very much for your call.
No, thank you, guys.
And good luck for the rest of the season with Tottenham. as well.
That wasn't Postecoglou, was it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, because you did say that.
It could have been.
He's a closet red, isn't he?
It could have
he
been.
He loves the United stand. He just wanted to speak to us. I love that.
Let's bring in our next caller. Our next caller is DZ. DZ, how's it going? All right?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good, thank you, mate. Let's talk, DZ, about Amrabat. I know I've seen a few messages exchanged between you and Beth about the topic of Amrabat. Maybe you guys disagree with it. Do you want to explain your point of view? Should he become that permanent signing for Manchester United?
Oh, 100%. I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, if you can spend 60 million pounds on Mason Mount, I mean, why can't you spend 20 million on Amrabat, a position that we absolutely need cover for in the defensive midfield position? I also think that every single other player has failed there, and so I don't think it's a personnel problem. I think it's more of a tactical problem. So why blame the player when, you know, Ten Hag is unfortunately limiting everyone else in that position? And also, if we're being completely honest, I don't think there's been one really excellent player throughout the first 17 games anyway. So why focus on one guy who, in fairness, spent his first month playing left back?
I was going to say that. I was going to say he came straight in, Kev, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he was at left back.
Well, in fairness too, yeah, in defence of Amrabat, he hasn't really had a run of games in his preferred position. He played left back, like you say. He did an all right job for the team, let's say. But at the same time, when you're watching a game, you can look and you go, he's never a left back. But listen, he's helped the team out. You know, how many other players would have sacrificed themselves and put themselves in that position? And, you know, I like his style of play. And like DZ mentions there, the price tag, it's a decent price tag for a player that you're getting. You know, he's better than other players that are currently in that squad. So he can only add to the squad. But there is no doubt that the middle of the park is somewhere again. I thought we'd have addressed this situation last season.
It's so annoying.
But it looks like we're going to need an overhaul again. It's so imbalanced. Whatever Ten Hag seems to do, whatever he throws in the middle, it's imbalanced.
Well, I'm going to ask you this, DZ. Obviously, you've given your thoughts there about Amrabat. What do you think about McTominay?
Yeah, I mean, look, I said this in our DMs earlier, but like the fact that Maguire and McTominay are two of our best players over the last 4 or 5 games, and yes, there are some 3-0 shellackings there. I mean, like that's where we are. We're an 8th place level team, and they are Premier League proven players, you know, for mid-table teams. That's what they are. So I'm not entirely shocked. The one thing I will say is, yes, their talent is limited, but at least they're fighting, man. I mean, it's all I've asked for this team is if you're going to lose, fine, but at least fight for the win and show like you care. So I actually saw a lot of positives yesterday. I know a lot of people were doom and gloom, but I actually don't think it was as bad as it was. So
it is the strangest thing. You know, so I'm just thinking in my head, Devin, you talk about McTominay and Maguire, right? This is two players that your manager has basically turned around to and probably said, if a bid comes in, you know, you can go. So you've basically been shown the door. And we've had moments this season where Ten Hag's been on the brink. You've had, is it Harry Maguire scoring in the Champions League? When Ten Hag was under pressure, we're looking at the Champions League game.
Saving him after coming on
We've
the
had
screen
Brentford, you know, going into the 90th minute, 1-0 down. McTominay comes on, scores 2 goals. Huge goals, because you know the vultures would have been circling that evening. Ten Hag out, you know, he's lost the Old Trafford crowd and that. And kept him going on again. And it is really strange. But at the same time, you have to admire it.
Agreed.
You know, Harry Maguire's took a lot of stick. I understand, well, I don't say I understand it, but I know from talking to a lot of United fans that Scott McTominay's not the most popular player between fans. But the one thing they will give you really is up near 100% each game.
It's because they're from Manchester as well, some of them, isn't it? So they know what it means.
There is some truth to knowing, you know, what it is to represent a certain football club, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, DZ, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, mate.
So our next caller, we're smashing through these.
We're flying through them.
Our next caller is Andrew. Andrew would like to talk about our inability to defend crosses. Go on, Andrew. The stage is yours.
Fellas, how are we doing?
Good,
Thanks so much for hosting us today.
No worries, that's all good.
I like the sound of this guy. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we're
Come
making
on,
friends
Andrew.
today, Kev.
Yeah.
You guys are good. Right on. Man, I wanted to talk about just crossing in general for our squad. Like, I know Goldbridge and I think the fan forum, we were all speaking a lot about our defensive awareness when it comes to defensively, on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to crosses. I'd like to get your thoughts on just offensively going forward when it comes to crosses. Like, I'm a dumb North American guy on this call that's been a member of the United Stand for many years now.
Thank you.
And when I grew up playing football, if you're playing an attacking position, normally somebody goes to the near post and somebody goes to a far post when a cross comes in. I don't understand, like, am I missing something with football these days? I get so frustrated watching United and I see Rasmus doing it, but I don't see anyone else doing it, whether it's the 10, whether it's the winger on the far side. And I don't know if that's, tactically, like, what should be done. I want your opinion, as football fans and people that watch the club just as closely as I do, because I'm super frustrated by it defensively when it comes to crosses, but even more so offensively. What are your thoughts, fellas?
It is Andrew.
Yeah. Sorry, Andrew. First of all, I was going to say, never call yourself dumb again, my friend. Do you know what I mean? I like the sound of you. Offensively, you picked up on a really good point, because it's something on the fan forum that we've discussed. You'll obviously be familiar with the Godfather, Ricky. Ricky tears his hair out on a weekly basis because he cannot understand why we have left-footed players playing on the right side of the pitch, right-footed players playing on the left side of the pitch. And this is modern-day football, which we're used to, really. I know Ricky is as well, a 4-4-2 formation where you play with out-and-out wingers. Football has changed because teams prefer really to play a front three. When you play that front three, they tend to be forwards, and a lot of these players now are not really wingers. They're not somebody that's going to cut to the byline. And in Manchester United's instance, when you've got Anthony that's playing on the right, who's predominantly left-footed, it is very easy, and likewise on the other side with Rashford, for a defender to show them onto the weaker foot. Anthony's right foot is simply just for standing on and for running and balance. I have never, ever seen him cross a ball with his right foot. I'd go as far as well to say he's not the type of player that's going to whip a cross in. Rashford the same, because a lot of these players, they are inverted forwards, and it's all about being out on that side, being able to cut it back onto your stronger foot and try and score a goal. At the same time, it does drive me insane. It does, because I look at a team like, let's say Manchester City, for instance. You've got balance. A lot of their football is getting into the final third, the byline, getting the head up, and literally passing the ball into the net. Listen, Manchester City are extremely good at it. But at the same time, it's so effective. Why has Ten Hag not worked this out yet?
It's the big question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just on your point, though, great point. I think if you look even outside of Antony and Rashford, a lot of folks on our team, it's really disconcerting to see how many people are not confident in their weak foot. All of them. A lot of folks on the pitch. Number two, I hear you when it comes to inverted wingers. However, if you're running to a far post, potentially to make a header, once again, your opinion, but as a football player, it's easier on your inverted side to hit that and try and make a diving header or some type of connection with the ball on the far side of the post if you're inverted, if you're running in, if that makes sense. Like if you're running in on your weak foot. So once again, I just don't see it with our team. I'd implore people to watch it for yourselves. We have a lot of people just standing around the 6-yard box, not necessarily in a position to score. I really think it's why we lack goals so hard this season, is that there's not enough movement and creativity on the front line outside of Rasmus. And I really think it's as simple as pushing the back line forward by making runs into the posts when crosses come in. So, something to look for on future games and like the fan forum and that to discuss. But I wanted to point it out on the call-in show because it's really rattling me. So thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for coming on and having your say. Let's get our final caller in. Can you believe it?
Last one.
5 o'clock
That is mental,
already.
man. Yeah.
We've literally flown
I
by
could literally do
call
this
show.
all night.
Yeah, we could literally be here for the rest of the day, couldn't we? Let's get our
I'm
final
enjoying
caller in, and we're ending on a positive. It's Rock. He says, give Ten Hag more time.
He's absolutely the Rock.
Are you the Rock?
Can you smell what the Rock is cooking? I am.
Yes.
He's cooking. He's cooking. Take it away.
I just think the disrespect on Ten Hag is just crazy. I think when you think about what he's had to go through last year with the team in terms of the Ronaldo situations, you have the injuries up front with Martial, we had to deal with Weghorst, predominantly our striker, and missing out on targets like Frankie de Jong. It's not the ideal start, but yet he managed to bring us to third with a trophy, get to a final. And now, all of a sudden, all that credit in the bank is gone. Fans, I honestly believe that fans, like Man United fan base here, is starting to become a problem because I don't understand how even though we've seen Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole being thrown under the bus constantly, yet we still think it's the manager's fault. Like I'll give you an analogy, right? Like
Well said.
if you're someone who owes the mafia money, and you have to wake up and you have to pay them in the morning, right? But you're a little bit hungry, you're not gonna go get yourself a sandwich first. You're gonna go and pay the mafia.
It's true.
So the problems are the Glazers and the recruitment team. And I know it's boring to talk about, but if Man United fans stop talking about it, this is exactly what the Glazers want. We need to press down on their Glazers' necks every single day to make sure there's a movement.
I completely agree, and I think sometimes when we keep losing games, it kind of takes a spotlight away from the Glazers and actually puts it onto the manager and the players. So I think, we need to keep pushing that Glazers out movement, but it's tiring to talk about all the time. But Rock, we are out of time, but thank you very much.
Well said, mate. Love
for
that.
your call, and I'm sure we'll see you on the next one, so thank you very much.
No problem.
Don't forget to promote... Nope. Not forget.
Go on, lad. You'll get
I'm
it.
about
You'll
to
get
promote it. We have our Christmas show on the 11th of December. It is our Not So Silent Christmas night. Kev will be there. I will be there. Mark will be there. He is hosting. You can get your Christmas jumpers as well in the link, which is in the description.
He actually messaged me the other day, Mr. Goldbridge, and he was like, do you want any complimentary tickets? And I was like, complimentary tickets? I said, as long as there's 48 bottles of Budweiser in my what do you call it, my dressing room. He was like, dressing room, you chancer. I won't have a dressing room.
Well,
I'm really looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, it's gonna
I've never been to one of these. The last one, I had a personal thing that happened a couple of days before, so I was absolutely devastated because it's nice to... I've never been to something like this where I think we're going to be able to interact with so many people. Now and again I might go in the pub and somebody, I always go, Kev, or in the Trafford Centre, Kev, United stand, talk a bit of football, but this is another level as well. I've not seen Goldbridge for years as well, to be honest as well.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing night. Well, everybody,
get your tickets.
Thank you for watching the Call-In Show. Me and Kev, we haven't hosted the Call-In Show together before, but hopefully we did okay and you enjoyed it. Yes, don't forget your Christmas tickets, and we want to see you in your Christmas jumpers. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.